Hi, I'm Lim Chung Chun. I'm the co-founder and chairman and CEO of iFAST Corporation Limited. Here's my investment resume. Well, I was an engineer by academic training, but I didn't work as an engineer. Straight after I graduated, I went into the investment world. I started by working as an investment analyst for about 7 years. Along the way, then I co-founded iFAST, and I've always been an active investor.
Good morning, boss. So today you'll be answering some questions on your investment resume. What got you started on investing?
When I was in my final year in the university, where I did engineering, I decided that I would like to get into the investment world as a career. So after I graduated, I looked in that direction, and I got a job as an investment analyst. That was 1991, and that's how I got started.
When and how did you start investing?
My first investment was in 1991. That was soon after I graduated and I started working in a stockbroking firm as an investment analyst. By working as an investment analyst, I was in a position to find out more about the company that potentially we have investment interest in. So that put me in a good position.
What was your first investment?
My first investment was made at the end of 1991. That was in a company called Uniphone. It was actually a Malaysian company that operates public pay phones. Nowadays, you don't really see that, but back then, without handphone, that was actually an area that was growing very fast. So as an analyst, I visited the company, understand that earnings were going to grow quite nicely, and that's when I decided to invest in the company.
So, do you make any profit from this investment?
Yes, my first investment was actually something that turned out quite well. I think on Uniphone, I made about 110% after 10 months of investing. So the lesson from that really is that if you understand the earnings potential of the company, understand that earnings trend are going to improve, and that hasn't been factored in sufficiently by the market, then there's definitely a lot of opportunity for us to look out for.
If you could turn back time to then, what do you wish you have invested in?
I will still be looking at investing in the stocks that I understand and know and understand that it has good earnings potential. The difference would, however, be that I would like to be able to expand my horizon beyond the markets that I used to look at. I used to essentially be looking at Singapore and Malaysia market, but if I can also look at the bigger markets such as US, Hong Kong, then that would be something that I will actually look at more actively.
What is your best investment today?
My best investment to date is iFAST. It's a company that I co-founded and invested in, put in some initial seed money, put more money along the way, and because I understand iFAST better than anybody, I'm in a position to ensure that the investment are well safeguarded. That is something that has turned out quite well, and I expect that to continue to be something that I have high expectation for in the future.
What has been your worst investment experience?
My worst investment experience was probably sometime in 1998. That's the first time that I saw a real bear market that happened during an Asian financial crisis. I never knew up to then that stock market could actually tumble so much that stocks that you buy can actually drop as much as 80%. And the portfolio that I had probably was down 60% at the lowest point back then. So that is something that was frightening because it's the first time I encountered such a big bear market.
What is your personal investment strategy?
My personal investment strategy is simply, first and foremost, to know the investments that you are putting money into very well. The companies that you're going to invest to, make sure that you know them well, you understand the earnings potential of the next 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, or longer. I think that's important. Over the years, what has changed really for me is that instead of just focusing on other companies where I essentially am investing passively, now I prefer to put money into investments where the fate of the company is something that I can control, because there are a lot of companies where bad management decision can be made because investment decisions or management decisions are made for various reasons other than just for the purpose of ensuring good shareholder return. So by putting more emphasis into something that I can influence and control, that will actually help me to safeguard my investment better. So that's something that's changed in terms of what I do over the years.
Do you have an investment advisor?
I don't have a specific investment advisor, but I do pay attention to the views of various people in terms of investment strategies, in terms of investment opportunity. So that's how I generally make my investment decisions.
What are 3 factors you look out for before making an investment?
Well, firstly is earnings potential of the company. Secondly is the earnings potential of the company. And thirdly is also earnings potential of the company. I think ultimately a company's value is actually driven by the earnings potential. But what investors should focus on is not just the earnings potential over the immediate term, not just the next 1 quarter or 1 year. I think increasingly it's important to think in terms of next 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, or even 10 years. The world is shifting very rapidly, and the ability to understand the longer term earnings trend is actually important.
Name 3 investments that are currently on your watch list.
Well, I'll name 3 groups of company that I generally pay attention to. Firstly, it would be the tech companies that are in the US. I think we're looking at a world where the industry is evolving very rapidly. The internet world, the semiconductor world, that's actually evolving very rapidly. And many of these companies found in the US, these are leaders of the world. So this is something that I generally pay attention to. Secondly, it would be tech companies that in China. They are mostly listed in Hong Kong, some in the US. These companies have actually been growing, and they'll continue to be able to grow. They are in their respective industry very often also the most competitive companies in the world. So they will be there not just today but in the future. Recently, they have been falling out of favor, and these are short-term problems that give rise to opportunity. It should never be something that we write off in terms of the potential. So they have been something that I've been watching closely quite a bit in recent times. Third category that perhaps has been in my watch list more recently as well, especially, has been some of the other investments in China, such as some of the property company, etc. These have been sold down very badly in the lights of some of the concerns and problem and negative sentiment towards China. But I certainly expect that many of these will bounce back in a stronger manner, and that's why it's something that I pay attention to.
Name 2 stocks that you would buy and hold.
The first is Tencent. I think they are a major leader in the digital economy space, major leader in China, but I believe that the journey that they have has a long way more to go. So it's something that I've been adding on to as well in terms of positions recently because of the weakness and the negative sentiment towards the sector. Second company I'd like to name really is iFAST, because for me especially, as I believe that you need to be able to understand what you buy into, need to be able to safeguard what you're investing into. So for me, therefore, iFAST is something that makes a lot of sense, and I'm thinking in terms of the next 10 years, 20 years.
Is there any type of asset class you would recommend?
Well, I feel that for most people who have a longer term investment horizon, you're using money that you don't have to use immediately, then equities as an asset class is something that you should really be looking at having a significant portion into. And as a value investor, I generally look for areas whereby the sectors perhaps of good value could be because of some short-term problem that make them out of favor, but has good long-run potential. So one such example recently would be a lot of the China stocks, including some of the tech stocks, as well as some of the other stocks in the other sectors, such as property. So those are areas that I'll be looking at currently.
What does money mean to you?
Well, money is something that make your life easier and better, and make the life of the people around you easier and better. So it should be something that work for you, not the other way around. Some people work for the money. I think money should be something that work for you.
What is your biggest money fear?
For me, the key thing is to avoid being in a situation where we'll be under pressure to look for the money in the very short term. For instance, if you overgear, over leverage, or you are in a position where the short-term cash flow is a problem, then these are issues that we should generally try to avoid.
How are you planning for retirement?
For me, because my biggest investment is iFAST, then the key thing for me to ensure is to safeguard my investment in iFAST. So for me, it's about ensuring that iFAST continue to be run well, continue to be run properly, can continue to grow, and you won't be in a situation where there's a major risk in the future. So if that can be ensured, then my retirement will automatically be taken care of, and the retirement of the people who are close to me will automatically be taken care of as well.
What is your definition of financial freedom?
Financial freedom to me means the ability to do what you enjoy, what you love, and not have to worry about having enough money for it. You could be working, you could be retiring, but the key thing is do you enjoy what you do, and do you have the money to ensure that you can do what you want to do comfortably? If you are, then that's financial freedom.
What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs?
My advice really is to ensure that you have a business plan, business model that is strong for the long run, that really is a model that can ensure that good profitability can be achieved over time. It may take time to build the profit, but the key long-term direction actually need to be there. Don't just get caught up in some of the short-term fluctuations in investor sentiment. Don't just get caught up in some of these short-term consideration in terms of chasing the hot areas, the hot industry. Plan well for the long term. Be clear about your true business model in terms of how you can make money in the long run.
Finally, can you share with us your investment motto?
Firstly, know your investment. Understand the investment very well. Know the long-term earnings potential of the company or industry that you're buying into. And finally, be patient, think long-term.